The video is called ReZero Proves Character Arcs Don't Need to Be Obvious. Video by Anime Every Day.
One of my favourite things about ReZero is that it constantly recontextualizes its characters over time. You meet someone, think you understand exactly who they are.
I think I understand where this is about to go. Let's talk about Julius real quick. Off the rip, let's open the dialogue on Julius because the season itself hasn't given me enough of an opportunity to speak on where I stand on Julius right now. All right, let me say this. I used to be probably the biggest Julius hater you know, and you just wouldn't know it because I never had the opportunity to talk on him. All right, there were two reasons I hated on Julius. Reason number one, this scene right here. All right, this was our introduction to Julius. Dog came off like an arrogant asshole who was whooping my goat's ass for no reason. Reason number two is that even when he started to get closer to Subaru, started to team up with him, even when he became part of the squad, the problem I had with Julius as a character, or not even as a character, the problem I had with Julius and where he stood in the show, and I've said this before, Dog was literally a diet Reinhardt, bro. Like, from aesthetics to... Why I say Reinhardt and my light turned red? Nah, that nigga got a blessing that affects reality. You can't say Reinhardt name in vain. My fault, Lord. My fault, Mr. Sword Saint. I'ma just change my light back, and we're gonna... Okay, my fault. But he was a diet Reinhardt, bruh. All right, aesthetically, they look similar. They fought the same, the kind of combination between sword and magic. But when we put it all together, Reinhardt is better on all fronts. Reinhardt fights better. He's a better swordsman. He looks better. Let's just keep it a stack right now. Like, pause. But like, if again, we've attractiveness scaled these two before. Reinhardt looks better than Julius. Let's keep it a stack right now. Now, with the way Julius has been recontextualized this season, specifically as it relates to his relationship with Subaru, I've grown more fond of the character, or at least fond of where he sits in the story as a parallel to Subaru. And so I hope this video maybe gets into that.
And then 50 episodes later, you suddenly realize you completely misread.
Damn, I just realized how much the art style kind of changed
one of the
throughout
best examples of that in the entire
the series. Even
Because
though I'm not gonna lie, Subaru was bullshitting back then, bro. And wow, was the art style really this rough in the first season? Amelia looks a little special over there. This was before we were seeing her belly button in every episode.
When most people think back to the early parts of this show, especially in season 1, Julius is usually remembered as that arrogant knight who publicly humiliated Subaru during one of the lowest moments of his life.
Started whooping his shit. This frame always makes me laugh, bro, because why was he putting so much skill, form, and effort into whooping, Subaru's ass, bro? Look at this shit.
That stuck with a lot of people for years. But the more ReZero develops their relationship, the more I think that reading completely misses who Julius actually
had him laid out.
I don't think he ever truly looked down on Subaru. In fact, I think part of him generally quite admired him.
I mean, we know that confirmed now, right? A couple episodes ago, he was literally saying like, oh yeah, I looked up to you for how you acted in that hall. But again, we didn't know that back then. We just saw him as a jerk.
And it wasn't because Subaru was right. He absolutely wasn't. His outburst during the royal selection was reckless, emotional, and probably made Amelia's situation even worse. But underneath all of that, Subaru still did something nobody else in that room was willing to do. He stood up anyway.
Stand up.
And I think Julius, more than anyone else here, understood how difficult that actually was.
Like, come on, bro. You telling me and the more I say it, the more I realize I low-key got the same cut. I could just never get behind Julius's haircut. Something about that shade of purple just didn't do it for me. And then like I don't know.
Which is why their relationship becomes so much more interesting the further the show goes on.
Yeah, that's right. He saved him a couple times now.
Because eventually you start realizing that Subaru and Julius are not opposites at all.
They're parallels.
Subaru spends most of the series trying to become this ideal version of a knight. Meanwhile, Julius has spent most of his life trying to live up to already being seen as one.
That's true. I never realized that comparison. I'd be forgetting that Subaru is technically Amelia's knight. I think because we've seen him because we've seen him through the whole show, he still kind of registers in my head as like this tag along who's in what's the dude's name? Rosewall Squad, who just so happens to be around Amelia. But like, nah, it's because he doesn't have a night fit, right? He just now changed his fit to the green. He used to have the tracksuit on. And so he doesn't register in my mind as night, but I keep having to remind myself that when everyone else is looking at Subaru, they're like, oh yeah, that's Amelia's night right there. He's a little weird. He's a little strange, probably smells a little funny. I don't know if he'd be taking baths like that, but that's Amelia's night. And he seems surprisingly clutch when it really comes down to it.
When we go back to the royal selection now, it feels completely different compared to the first time watching it. Back then, a huge part of the audience, myself as well, sided with Subaru and hated Julius for that scene. Julius felt like this arrogant, privileged knight publicly humiliating somebody who was already emotionally falling apart. Everything about that scene is framed to make Subaru's humiliation feel painful and as uncomfortable as possible.
But now we know
especially
he was
because
dead
we're
ass making
experiencing
a
it
jackass
entirely
out of
through
himself.
his perspective. And to be fair, Subaru is genuinely being humiliated. He walks into that room trying to force himself into the role of Amelia's knight before he's emotionally ready for what that actually means. The more insecure he becomes, the harder he doubles down until the entire thing spirals into this complete public collapse. But what really makes that scene interesting is that Subaru isn't entirely wrong either. He sees Amelia being judged for something she has no control over, and emotionally he can't tolerate sitting.
What the fuck? Was bro at the... I don't remember him being there. What was this dude's name again? Al? Was Al there? I've heard some interesting stuff about Al that they apparently skipped over in the show itself. And I still don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to say too much on it because, I think it goes into spoiler territory. But there's something we don't know about Al. I have a feeling he's going to play a bigger role later. And yeah, I guess Al is technically a knight, right? I'm not going to lie. Is Subaru's current fit made to parallel Al's? Because why do they both got the yellow and the green on? I'm not gonna lie. Hold on. Cross-verse theory. Cross-verse theory. What's going on? Who else is heroic, a little strange, and wears a short yellow cape over their green superhero suit? Hold on. Who else is heroic, a little strange, and wears a short yellow cape over their green superhero suit? Hold on. I might be cooking something. Is Al Deku? It's time we ask ourselves the big questions. Why else would Al be hiding his face? They have the same. Look at. Hold on, bro. I'm always scared to look up ReZero shit, bro, because spoilers. I'm gonna just hit images. All right, be careful. Come on, bro. That's the same cape. Hold on, is Deku stealing sauce? Yo, why this nigga Al don't got no non-blurry pictures, bruh? We're gonna have to go with this one. Deku might be stealing sauce, bruh. Horikoshi. We gotta open the dialogue on Horikoshi, bruh. I don't know, but Al, all that to say, Al interests me. I just don't know what to make of him. Like, why the fuck is he scratching his head, but he's scratching the helmet? Nigga, you're not scratching any itches. You're scratching pure metal.
And there quietly while it happens. Everyone else in the room understands the politics and the social expectations surrounding that situation, but Subaru reacts emotionally instead. He throws himself
That was some bullshit.
Fight
like, I felt bad for Subaru, but I remember watching this. This was years ago. This was probably 2018, 2019. And I felt embarrassed for Amelia, bro. Look at the expression on her face right now. Rosewall ready to whoop his ass too. That boy Rosewall, you have to die. Subaru, what the fuck are you doing? I know Rosewall was mad as shit over here, bruh.
as part of him genuinely believes somebody should say something. The problem is that conviction and capability are not the same thing. Subaru mistakes the strengths of his feelings for the right to stand there as Amelia's knight. And instead of helping her, he drags both of them deeper into a sense of humiliation. He's not acting out of malice, he's acting out...
Wow, I don't remember the art looking this rough in season 1. I'm not gonna lie, we really low-key eating good right now. I just didn't peep.
Of insecurity.
I think my standards have also raised, though, since 2018, so that has to do with that, too.
Pride, desperation. It's a very real desire to protect someone he cares about. And that's the part Julius understood. Because while most viewers walked away from that scene...
he was whooping that nigga ass. And they were all cheering him on, too. Like, why did he have to hit him with so much force that he puts up this big, like, cloud of dust? Was that necessary? That wasn't necessary, bro. I'm not gonna lie. He low-key deserved the ass whooping Stick Swinger gave him. Let's keep it a stack right now. For him to fully parallel Subaru, and now I see why they did it. For him to fully parallel Subaru, he needed that same humiliation. And what did he catch? That same humiliation. I'm not gonna lie. Let's open the dialogue. Would you rather be Subaru and have to fight Julius, or be Julius and have to fight Reed the Stick Swinger? Man, I'll take Julius any day, bruh. Hit me with that wooden sword, bro. You got it. I don't want that Stick Swinger smoke, bruh. I don't want that Stick Swinger smoke. Yeah, nah. I'd rather have to fight Julius for sure.
Subaru looked, or how cruel Julius felt.
Okay, he was
Julius
whipping his
himself
ass.
Saw something different entirely. He saw someone willing to throw away his own pride for another person. It was messy, it was reckless, it was pathetic, but it was...
I do wonder, do you think this was intentional though? Like, because obviously we know now that Julius was playing a character here to an extent. You know what I mean? He was acting more cruel than he had to, and it wasn't necessarily reflecting how he felt. But I still wonder if this was maybe the way Julius is now. I wonder if it was a pivot for his character, because he was very mean and arrogant in the beginning.
Sincere. Julius saw courage in it. It was misguided courage, but it was courage all the same. And I think that matters so much to Julius.
He looks younger now than he did in season 1.
Because
he got his hair layers done better too.
He himself is somebody who lives through ideals. It's not just the image of knighthood, but the responsibility behind it. Protecting people, standing for something, holding on to your convictions even when it costs you personally. And this creates this really interesting irony where Subaru, despite being completely unqualified at the time, accidentally displays a kind of knightliness that many actual...
That boy was scheming. That boy was ready to get his head in.
...knights in that room never could. Not through discipline
or he did have Shamak back then, didn't he?
It's that pure sincerity. And the reason all of this hits so hard right now is because
Julius had to face that same sort of humiliation.
Julius eventually ends up in almost the
elbow to the back of the head
position
Fuck.
that Subaru was in back then.
The only difference though, I feel like low key, now that I think about it, I bet you he's happy as shit to find out about Fox 𝙏𝙀. And let me tell you why I say that. I bet you he's happy as shit to find out about Fox 𝙏𝙀, because now his princess, or the person who he's knighted to, technically didn't see him get his ass whooped. You know what I mean? I bet you he's relieved. Wait, you mean Anastasia didn't see that performance? I know he took a deep breath low key when he found out a fox was possessing his girl. You mean Anastasia didn't see me get my shit dropped? Good shit. That's why he was so happy to tell everybody. That's why he didn't really press Fox 𝙏𝙀 or Subaru like that, because he was low key cheering on the inside.
Before gluttony, Julius always had a place in the world. Even if he carried insecurities internally, he still had the structure around him. He was a respected knight. He was admired and needed. People looked at him and
now no one knows if he's actually a knight.
He was supposed to be. But suddenly all of that has disappeared. And it's not about the physicality of it. It's about the emotionality of it.
I guess I never took that into account, right? Like it's because it's so weird to watch it like zoomed out as a viewer, right? Because I don't know if this is just me, right? But it's hard for me to take Julius serious when we're in the presence of a Reinhardt and what's old bro's name? Von Astria, the old Von Astria, and all of these like super tippy tip top of the verse characters that are unmatched. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to remember that in universe, Julius is one of them ones, bruh. Like he is seen as top of the line. We've seen countless characters that are above him. You know what I mean? We've seen Reinhardt. We've seen all the Sin Archbishops. We've seen that weird, scary little white-haired chick that hasn't been back in like 50 episodes. We've seen, just countless characters. Shaula, probably. We've seen countless characters that can wash him. It does get kind of hard to remember that he's up there. You know, he had ascended to about as high as he could in universe, and now all that has literally been stripped away by Gluttony. Ate his shit. Pause. Which is crazy, because if he didn't have Subaru to put in a good word for him, and look at the way things change, right? A couple months ago, about a year ago in canon, you know what I mean? Subaru needed someone to put in a good word for him to become a knight, and no one wanted to put in a good word for him. Now look how things change. He needed Subaru to put in a good word for him, or else no one would have believed he was ever a knight. No one would have remembered, bro. Very interesting reversal of positions, reversal of situations right there.
Everyone around him still exists, but the connection is now gone. The history is gone. He's surrounded by people he considers close, while simultaneously feeling like a stranger standing beside them. And because Julius defines himself so heavily through his role as a knight, losing that recognition leaves him clinging even harder to the only thing he believes still belongs to him, his strength.
Okay, I never peeped that. Again, it's hard for me to remember. It's hard for me to realize Julius is actually strong, you know? I feel like he's always getting whooped. Only person we really seen him like wash was Subaru, but no, he's like that. And so that explains why he was so desperate to run it back with Stick Swinger, right? He believes his strength is still his. That's the one thing he still has. And then he goes on his first mission back and immediately gets abused by a nobody holding chopsticks. You know what I mean? It's like that idea of when you build your personality or your sense of self around like accomplishments or something external. You know, it's always recommended you don't do that, because the moment that gets taken away, you know, you're left hollow and you're left doing stupid shit like trying to run it back with Reed the Stick Swinger. And that also explains sort of the conversation he had with Subaru on the staircase, right? He was like, nah, I can do it myself. You know, I have the strength to walk down the stairs myself, damn near about to cry. And it's because he was grasping so desperately onto that capability that now that, you know what I mean? Now he got his ass whooped by Reed twice in a row. He don't really know where he belongs in the world now.
And that's why this Reed fight becomes so psychologically brutal. Reed doesn't just overpower Julius physically. He completely rejects his identity that he has built around himself. Every insult cuts directly into the fears.
And I'm not gonna hold, like, this nigga was scratching his ass during the fade, bro. Reed like broke him down mentally, and I don't even think he was like attempting to really be that evil. I think this is just how Reed is. Reed not worried about shit if it's not titties or honestly, that's the only thing we know canonically that he cares about. He doesn't seem to like sword fighting. I've only been doing this for 6 months. Face ass. Reed was able to break him down just cooling it, bruh.
Already carries internally, that he's performing knighthood rather than naturally embodying it. That underneath the composure is somebody desperately trying to become worthy of the image he presents to other people. And the painful part is that Julius genuinely believes in that ideal. The series outright tells us that he maintains the image of nobility because he once needed someone like that himself.
And I don't think that's necessarily, I don't think that's necessarily like I don't think he's like fake it till you make it. I don't think he's doing that. But I do think there's something admirable about trying to embody something, right? Like I'm not mad at Julius for wanting to embody knighthood and being a little extra with the way he does it. Obviously, to someone like Reed who just naturally is cracked, right? That's going to look stupid. But it's like one thing I do respect about Julius is that he does take his role as knight serious across the board. You know what I mean? You look at Subaru, let's be real, Subaru could probably train a little more, right? He takes his role as Amelia's protector seriously-ish. He takes his role as Amelia's like comrade, like her friend seriously. I mean, we know he low-key, we know he loves Amelia, as he would say. But, I mean, he does kind of neglect that aspect of knighthood where it's like, all right, bro, are you physically capable of protecting this person who you've been assigned to protect? And obviously for Subaru, right, it's less of a physical thing for him because he knows he'll always be able to run it back. So, maybe that's why he doesn't focus on that. But one thing I do respect about Julius, and the one thing I can say about Julius is that he's pretty well-rounded, right? A lot of characters in this series are kind of min-maxed. They can heal really well, but they can't fight. They can fight really well, but they're kind of stupid. They can't strategize. They can strategize really well, but they can't fight. Whatever, you know what I mean? Julius kind of has like the best all-around stats, with the exception of Reinhardt, but I mean, come on. And I do respect that about him, that he takes his role as a knight so seriously that he does make sure he's like across the board got his P's and Q's, you know what I mean? Like has his P's and Q's aligned.
Became the kind of knight that inspired him when he was younger, which is why Reed dismantles him so effectively, because Reed represents the complete opposite philosophy. He doesn't care about appearances,
doesn't give a fuck about none of that
reputation, or a sense of discipline.
Just cares
the
about
moment he looks
titties and
at Julius,
fades.
he sees somebody consciously trying to become greatness instead of naturally embodying it. And suddenly this is where Julius falls into the exact same emotional spiral that Subaru once did. He's trying desperately to prove...
Right. Because at one point, Julius was basically a Reed to Subaru. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure the gap between Reed and Julius is wider than the gap between Julius and beginning of series Subaru. But it's still a big gap there.
He belongs somewhere, trying to hold together an identity that feels like it's collapsing in real time. It's that same humiliation, the same desperation, the same fear that the person you built yourself around might actually not be enough. The difference here is that Subaru's collapse was loud and emotional, while Julius's collapse is much more quiet. After everything that happens with Reed,
it happened in
that
private
final
on the staircase.
scene between Subaru and Julius becomes surprisingly small and personal. He isn't really apologizing in a straightforward way. He's trying to explain himself, trying to rationalize why he still has to keep moving forward, and why he can't afford to stop now after everything he's lost. But the thing is, the more he talks, the clearer it becomes that he is spiraling. Because
he kind of was doing that thing where like it was to a point where you could tell he was spiraling because he didn't even want to accept help in its most basic form. Subaru wasn't saying, "Hey, bro, I'll handle Reed for you. You sit this one out, little bro." He wasn't doing it like that. He wasn't saying nothing like that. He was just like, "Dog, you need help getting down the stairs. You kind of took a hard one up there." And Reed was responding as if Subaru was spitting on like his capability in general. You know what I mean? Because it's like that. Okay, it's like this, right? If the only thing I cared about in life was my channel, my YouTube channel, my Twitch channel, whatever, and you say, "Yo, your channel sucks," it's going to register to me like, "Bro, you suck." Now, obviously, because I try to mentally separate how I feel about myself from how I feel about my content, or from the performance of my content, you know what I mean? I'm able to separate those two things. If someone doesn't like my content, all right, it is what it is. That doesn't say anything about me. Or if a certain video doesn't perform well, it is what it is. That doesn't say anything about me. But honestly, in times when I was like earlier times in my journey as a creator, I did have that sort of link. Like I kind of subconsciously made that link between the work that I put out and my self-worth, where if a video would underperform, it would like it would hit me in my soul as if I had underperformed at something. And so I kind of see where Julius is coming from here, right? When you link your self-worth to anything related to output, whether that be accomplishment, strength, whatever, and then that thing is proven wrong, you're proven not as strong as you thought, or, you know, your achievements aren't as great as you thought they would be, then you're naturally gonna, you know, it's gonna hit you in the soul harder. Where I think Subaru, on the other hand, Subaru kind of has to accept L's time and time and time again. The strongest thing you could be, I think, in anything, whether anything in life, the strongest like skill you can have is to be able to accept L's and just have them roll off you and run it back. And that's why I think Subaru is so cool and admirable. And that's why I like the way he's developed, because he's no longer at like season 1 Subaru where, you know, he's like every time he dies and comes back. You know what I mean? He dies, he's like, fuck. Okay, let me, you know, he's already back to it. Let me think about how I can make this better. Let me think how I can, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he got that resilience. It's not even just resilience though. Like, I think the process is quicker. You know what I mean? Like, he knows, like, okay, I lost. Let's do it again. Now, granted, nigga just lost his memories or some shit like that. So we're going to see in a couple minutes how that plays out, because I don't know what's going on with him now. Because maybe he will, you know, reset back to where he was. But yeah, I had always found that admirable about Subaru, is that like he doesn't have much of an ego, you know what I'm saying? Even from the beginning, he was willing to embarrass himself for what he believed in. If it meant yelling out in the courtroom with Amelia and them, looking like an idiot hitting this one right here, he was going to do it. If it meant running into certain death when fighting Rom back in the beginning, or was it Rim? Whoever kept killing his ass, he was going to do it. You know what I mean? And so I have always found that's always been what I found the most admirable aspect of Subaru to be, is that he's reached that separation of, like, you know, he's separated his ego from his productivity. I say he still had an ego, maybe more so entitlement. I think he definitely had entitlement. I think he was just stupid in that, you know, he thought he was coming into an isekai world where shit was sweet. You know what I mean? He thought the tropes were about to play out how they did in the shows. Little did he know he was unfortunately isekai'd into a intentionally subversive work. Sucks to suck.
After Reed tears him apart physically and psychologically, Julius is left clinging to the only thing he still believes gives his life meaning: being a knight, being useful, and being dependable. So when Julius starts trying to justify himself, Subaru cuts him off immediately, and it's not because he's angry, it's because he already gets it. He recognizes the exact same spiral he used to trap himself.
That boy
back
was
during
going down the
season 1.
stairs fast as shit.
Subaru cuts him off immediately, and it's not because he's angry, it's because he already gets.
Is this nigga skipping stairs? Huss. God damn, Subaru. That's dangerous, my boy. That boy went from this stair. Okay, he skipped the stair. He skipped another stair. Yo, be careful, my boy. Skipping stairs on the downhill is kind of crazy. Skipping stairs on the downhill is kind of crazy.
Spiral he used to trap himself back during season 1, where every explanation is really just another attempt to hold together a collapsing sense of self. And I think that's why
no
Subaru
railing
Julius
either,
ended up
just
becoming one of my
raw
favorite
dogging that shit
relationships in this show.
I was gonna say that, bruh. I was gonna say that. Niggas trolling talking about the Subaru Julius ship. I see it. I think the way they first of all right, nigga always had a thing for enemies to lovers. Sundays, all right, look, say what you want to say. You can say it's an ass trope. I don't care. That I am who I am. Like, you know what I'm saying? I started this romance anime shit with Toradora. That's forever like changed my brain chemistry as to the sorts of romantic relationships I find entertaining to watch. Obviously, I don't think either of these niggas like men. And so that's a big barrier for this relationship to become anything romantic. But the emotional groundwork is there. The emotional groundwork is there. So this isn't a horrible ship. Subaru x Julius is not bad work. I wouldn't be mad at it. I mean, I would be a little mad at it because it's like, what did we do this whole Amelia Rim thing for? But I mean, like from a purely writing perspective, I couldn't be mad at it. Couldn't be mad at it.
Most series would have left them as rivals forever. You'd have this emotional protagonist and the perfect knight who humiliates him early in the story.
Actually, now that I think about it, hold on, that's fire romance writing. Imagine getting your whole existence erased out of everyone's mind, and the only person that remembers you is your worst enemy? Hold on, that's Jubaru? Jubaru is kind of crazy. Hold on. Sulius? Am I a Sulius fan? I might be a Sulius fan. We can't be dead. I'm being dead ass right now. That is decent writing. Like that is solid emotional groundwork for a relationship. Obviously, they're not going to go down that route, right? The story is literally staked on like Subaru and Amelia's relationship, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's actually going to happen. But the enemies to lovers look at the stack here. Look at the emotional stack here, right? We got the enemies to lovers. We got the paralleled characters. And we got the you're the only one who remembers me, who really knows me like that. That's some good groundwork. Tap me in with the ReZero author, bruh. Tap me in with the ReZero author.
But ReZero keeps
I'm not gonna lie. Julius kind of looked like Amelia on the low too, now that I'm really peeping it out. What's going on? Look, the facial structure does not change. Like, look at the chin, bruh. Hold on, bruh. What's going on? And then they both got the purple motif going on?
ReZero keeps revisiting them over and over again. And every time it does, the relationship...
Subaru's the bottom in all of his ships, including... Didn't he say, like, he would rather be the one getting whipped? Like, isn't that canon? He said some shit like that? He'd rather be the one getting... He was like, if there's a whip involving me and a woman... Yeah, the thing is, Subaru is too much of a perv, though. Like, you could tell Subaru definitely likes women, bruh. That nigga can barely see. Actually, Subaru locked in, though. Subaru is locked in. Because we've said this before. You niggas would have folded for Shala. You niggas would have been folded for Shala. We would have never got out this tower because y'all would have got distracted. Hold on. What did she say? She said, I wish I could make dinner like this so Master would say, you're not getting to sleep tonight. You niggas would have folded in that situation. You niggas would have folded in that situation. That's all I'm saying. Honestly, Subaru is suspiciously... Let me stop playing. Let's finish this video.
More human and more honest. Because the longer the story goes on, the more you realize neither of them was ever really what they appeared to be. They were both insecure people trying to become somebody worthy of the image they carried in their own heads.
Yeah.
The difference was just in how they expressed it. But both of them spent years trying to become real knights in their own way. And I think that's why the recent parallels hit so hard. It's not because it's satisfying to watch Julius suffer the same way Subaru once did, but because the story finally brings them to the same emotional level. Back during the royal selection, Subaru could only see Julius from below, but now
they're on the same.
Clearly.
He said,
Not
damn, now you know how it feels to get your ass whooped, huh?
Untouchable knight, but as another person struggling under the weight of the ideal he built his life around. And in a weird way, that's probably the moment they truly become equals. It's not through strength, but through understanding. And honestly, I think that's one of the most beautiful things ReZero has ever written.
That is one of the most beautiful things they've ever written. But they've also written Amelia's aunt, bruh. You know? So we can't really say that's the most beautiful thing they've ever written.